Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we have a powerful fragrance video, and I've done a couple of these. So in my own style, I've kind of taken something that a lot of folks have made fun of and turned it into a style that fits the channel. We've done a powerful video on vintage masculines. We've done a powerful video on niche fragrances, and now we're going to attack vintage feminine fragrances or feminine targeted fragrances in my collection. Obviously, I love wearing all of these or they would not be in my collection. So this is going to be a video highlighting top 40 of my favorite powerful feminine targeted fragrances in my collection. So let's get started because this is going to be a long list. So I hope you got your seatbelt on. I actually came home from work, spent the day watching the presidential debate, which was, my God. If it doesn't show you how absolutely screwed our nation is, it is just unbelievable. Can you guys just vote for Ram? Can I just do like a write-in? Ram for president. Elect me. I will fix this. But yeah, it's really sad. Really, really sad. But needless to say, it's what we have. And you know what? There's an old saying that the people of the country get a leader that they deserve. And it really feels like we are getting everything we deserve in this just screwed up country of ours. So anyways, but leaving politics out of it, let's talk about perfume where we can escape the craziness of the world. So let's do this list. But first I want to do scent of the day. My scent of the day was Amouage Opus 13 Silver Oud. Sorry for the fingerprints. I actually put lotion on my hand and then grabbed this bottle. And it's almost like it stained the damn bottle from the lotion. But because this is almost like, I don't know, it's like coarse, but Silver Oud is probably one of my favorite creations while the Fishman was in office, since we're talking about elected officials. Now, he should not have that spot either. Make me, speaking of, forget president, make me head of Amouage. I'll fix Amouage. That's way more important than the presidency. So Silver Oud is basically animalic, sort of castoreum and leather and cypriol, and this oud accord opening up, and then it hits you with this big dose of billowing black smoke. I wore this today in June in Texas to the office. Multiple people then were like, "What are you wearing? Can I have some?" And I actually gave them sprays in the office, so I'm sure everybody on our floor smelled it. But I do really enjoy Silver Oud. And the other one from the Fishman that I would buy a bottle of if money was no issue is Royal Tobacco. I really like Royal Tobacco. So okay, so let's get started. Again, these are all vintage, meaning they're pre the year 2000 on the release. So we've got a top 40. And then we have one honorable mention. And many of these are going to be fragrances that you do not hear me talk about on the channel a lot. They're fragrances that I would love to get to review. Some of them I have reviewed, but not many. And so this is going to be a fun video for people maybe wanting to learn about vintage feminine targeted perfume, or at least the ones that I enjoy wearing. So the first one is going to be a fragrance from the house of Alain Delon, which we talk about Alain Delon for masculine fragrances all the time. This is their feminine targeted release from 1981 called Le Temps d'Aimer. Le Temps d'Aimer. And it is discontinued. It's considered a animalic floral fragrance. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to get some strips because I think I want to spray some of these. Give me 1 second. I'm actually running out of strips. Well, I shouldn't be running out because I think I should have a whole box somewhere, but they went missing in the divorce. I don't know where they are, so maybe I'll have to buy some more of these. But I'm going to spray this because it's been a while. Le Temps d'Aimer. Okay, so I don't know who the perfumer is, but I can tell you that as far as animalic florals go, this has got one of those atomizers that you hold down and it just like sprays juice for as long as you hold it down. It's pressurized. Very interesting take though on like aldehydic florals. It's got this amazing rosewood note, and I do love rosewood in perfume. It's one of my favorite wood notes actually. It's one of the reasons why I like Oud Wood by Tom Ford, not because of the oud, but because of the rosewood. So this is rosewood and this big aldehydic floral. There's lots of like powdery white smelling florals like gardenia, jasmine, stuff like that. Sometimes gardenia and jasmine can smell the same to me. They smell like this big white floral, which I know Rich Mitch would say white floral death, but I actually enjoy this. And into the dry down, it goes Animale with some castoreum, some civet, some leather, um, and it goes ambery, oak moss, patchouli, styrax, vanillas. But I would have no problem wearing this as a man. This is just a beautiful mixture of like a oriental fragrance from the vanillas and the leathers and styrax, and then this like aldehydic floral top. It's almost like an amalgamation of a lot of different fragrances. So this is the honorary mention. Some of these are going to be hard to find, discontinued, hard to find, stuff like that. But that's the stuff I like showing, stuff that a lot of folks don't talk about on their channel. So I like talking about these off the beaten path fragrances. So, and some of these are going to be some of the biggest names in perfume. So they're not all off the beaten path, but some of them I would consider less discussed, let's say, like the Alain Delon. So that's the honorable mention. Okay, so let's do number 1 on the list. And again, this is unranked. So this top 40 list is just 40 powerful vintage feminine fragrances in my collection. And so we're going to start with Amouage. These are in alphabetical order, by the way, or at least I tried to put them in alphabetical order after working all day and then listening to the damn debate. So this is Amouage Gold Woman. So Gold Woman is obviously this big throwback fragrance to the glory years of elegant and sensual and just huge perfumery. I know Guy Robert loved fragrances like Arpège, which are actually on this list. So this is kind of like a floral oriental, and it was made to use ingredients from Oman. So there's rose, lily of the valley, frankincense, myrrh, jasmine from grass, Florentine iris, ambergris, real ambergris supposedly, musk, cedar, civet, sandalwood, oak moss, and patchouli. Most people don't realize something like 30% of the world's ambergris naturally, because of the tides and the way that the oceans flow, actually washes up onto the shores of Oman. So this is a slightly vintage bottle. If you actually look, it says that the owner is not Amouage SAOC like today, but the owner is actually the Sultanate of Oman. So that's a way to tell it's an older bottle. And this is brilliant. I mean, it's beautiful. Gold Man gets my attention more for some reason, maybe because I grew up wearing it, and you know, I need to review it. It's still one of the Amouages I need to review along with Gold Woman. But I'll tell you what, the XIII version of this is the Eau de Parfum. The XIII fell in my lap. Well, didn't fall in my lap. It was given to me. A decant was very generously given to me by Allie, my Amouage sugar mama. And I'll tell you what, the XIII, I am in love with that stuff. I'll be talking about that on the channel soon. Maybe even a comparison video. But if you like sort of large fragrances that really make a statement, Gold Woman is one to check out. Okay. Next on the list is a new addition to my collection, and this was very kindly sent to me by Andrea, and this is the original Animale for women from 1987, but this is the Pure Parfum version, and I wore this to bed, or I put a drop on before bed the other night. My God, unfortunately this is discontinued, but this is like a big, giant, sort of floral chypre, if you will, and there you go, there's a little drop right there. Oh my God, it is so narcotic and rich and deep, and you know, there's this note of hyacinth, and hyacinth has this really deep, sensual, like narcotic smell. Wow, this is just mind-blowing. I mean, I figured this would be my favorite women's version because it was the original from the 80s. I still think I want the Eau de Parfum. There's an Eau de Parfum version of this, which I believe is still available to be purchased, but it's being marketed by Phallic Fashion Group, which is a hell of a name, by the way. This was last marketed by Parlux, and so this is discontinued. The Eau de Parfum is still available, apparently. I would like a vintage bottle of the Eau de Parfum, but wow, just this spicy, just, I mean, in-your-face floral with animalic notes coming through underneath, civet, but lots of different florals blending together, and almost like there's like a honeyed tint to it. The carnation is spicy. The Lang Lang gives that stretchy kind of banana feel that Lang Lang gives. This is absolutely stunning. Unbelievable fragrance that never gets discussed. The original Animale Pure Parfum from 1987. Okay. Next on the list, we have a Calvin Klein, and it is Calvin Klein Obsession for Women. I've got a full review on the channel, so I won't go into too much detail. But needless to say, this is kind of the scent of the 80s for many people. It fell right in the middle, 1985, one of the best years because I was also created in 1985. But it's a big, spicy oriental with some peach notes and vanillas and spices. And go watch my full review if you're interested in learning more about Obsession for women. The men's version is very good as well. I will review that one of these days. And I've got multiple versions, so maybe even a comparison video for the men. But I have no problem wearing Obsession for women. I love the powderiness of the oriental feel, the woodiness. There's some sandalwoods and cedar combination in here. It dries down to this ambery vanilla, but yes, check it out. Very warming fragrance. Go watch my review. Spicy Oriental. It's beautiful. Obsession for Women from 1985. Okay, the next one on the list is another one of these off the beaten path fragrances that just does not get discussed. And I think it's sad because I really think this is a great fragrance. Let me get some skin. I'm not putting this on a blotter. So this is the Pure Parfum of Carven's Madame Carven from 1979. So this is styrax, frankincense, ylang ylang, jasmine, patchouli, rose, and oh wow, it's like, this is such a interesting fragrance to me because, you know, there's almost like this, how do you describe it? Almost like this oily, waxy, I almost want to say like motor oil even feel. And that very well could be the styrax. I think styrax can also come across as slightly woody. I definitely get some woody undertones here, along with the beautiful floral heart, but the frankincense gives it this, you know, smokiness, it gives it this smoky floral feel, like, you know, you're smelling all these flowers with smoke intertwining in between. And it is just so underrated. Very few people talk about Madame de Carven from 1979. And this is the Pure Parfum. I believe it was a Nuge at Enchanté that very kindly sent me this for free, one of his very kind hauls that he sent me over the years. So yes, Madame de Carven from 1979. I have no clue who the perfumer is. The bottle is absolutely brilliant. That's like a little travel size. Look up the actual bottle. I miss bottles like that. Let's put it that way. There's almost like this James Bond opening of the film, like kind of circle in the middle of the bottle where you can see the juice, like he's kind of zooming in on James Bond to shoot him or whatever. Yes, fantastic bottle. Okay. Next on the list, we have a Clinique fragrance, and I'll tell you what, I've got the modern version of this, but Andrea very kindly sent me a couple drops of the vintage, and I wore it to bed the other night. Holy moly, like I was thinking throwback of the very first time I smelled the original Azurée, which, by the way, there's a couple in this list that I'm going to point out, which are some of the most powerful, strong fragrances even in the most powerful fragrance videos, and this is one of them. This is Aromatics Elixir in the vintage form. Clinique's Aromatics Elixir in the vintage form is, I mean, the depth and the richness and the texture. You know, it's almost like Bernard Chant is an absolute master at creating chypres, and chypres, of course, have that bergamot top, and they usually have mossy bases with some patchouli. And usually labdanum as well. And he is just the master at creating chypres. I don't know. He's also the master at using aldehydes, and you don't get very many aldehydes in this. It's not like some of his other creations, but I'll tell you what, this is one of the penultimate rose fragrances I've ever smelled. It is just perfection. It is. I don't know if you could improve. When I was wearing this, I was like, can this be improved on? Like, is it even possible? If you showed this to a perfumer and said, this is an example of a proper rose-dominant floral chypre with big textured oak moss in the base that just keeps everything feeling so rich and thick and powerful and lasting, and a big hunk of patchouli and smoky frankincense and all this stuff, right? Spices. Can you improve on it? I just can't think. Even if you gave it to your favorite perfumer, Antoine Lee, Dominique Ropion, whoever it is, I don't think this is. I don't think this can be improved on. The what I was smelling when I wore this to bed was shocking, and the power of this was shocking as well. Much more powerful than the Modern Juice. And now I understand why everyone was going crazy for Aromatics Elixir. Okay, so that is Clinique's Aromatics Elixir. Then we've got a Creed, which I reviewed on the channel very recently. This is called Vanisia. So I didn't include Shalimar in the video. I easily could have included an extrait of Shalimar or something like that. But many of those old Guerlains, they don't... there's a couple that wear powerful and are on this video, but many of them have that Guerlainade, classiness to them. And so I wouldn't include something like Shalimar or Chamade or something like that in this list. So I went with Vanisia, and Vanisia is almost like Creed's take on Shalimar with basically the highest quality ingredients you could imagine from 1987. Bergamot, Bulgarian rose, sandalwood, ambergris, and vanilla. And even though this may not be the most powerful fragrance as far as projection and strength, Aromatics Elixir blows this away, but this really lasts a long time on my skin. That's probably the ambergris or, whatever Creed is using as an ambergris substitute is my guess. So Venezia makes the list from Creed, the only Creed on the list. No numbers, but Creed Venezia is next. Okay, so after Venezia, we've got, if you're marking down most powerful fragrances on the list, this one could probably go right to the top. It's known as one of the most powerful fragrances ever created. And if you ever knew anybody that wore this, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. This is Dior's Poison, especially in the vintage Esprit de Parfum version. This stuff, if even a drop touches you, forget about it. My God, man. That very narcotic, honeyed tuberose. There's so much going on, though, in Poison. It's a big, spicy oriental with this orange honeyed plum. The bottle almost looks like a poison apple meets plum color looking thing. And there's anise. There's rosewood again, which I love. This is like a reference tuberose fragrance, in my opinion. Carnation, Apopanax, frankincense, jasmine, neroli, cinnamon, rose, heliotrope, vanilla, amber, cedar, musk, sandalwood, vetiver. Jean Guichard and Edward Fleischier are given credit for creating Poison. And the original came out in 1985. A great year for fragrances. But even if, as a man, this is not something that you would wear, if you're a serious collector, you should have Poison in your collection. This is like reference oriental fragrance material here. This is hard for me to wear out and about. I usually would wear this to bed if I'm going to wear it to remind myself of what's going on in the fragrance and all that stuff. But there's a woman who I know who loves to wear it, and it smells amazing on her. So yes, that is Dior's Poison. Okay, this next one's going to surprise you guys. This is a new one to my collection, and I've got here both the Pure Parfum and the actual Eau de Toilette. This is a vintage bottle of the Eau de Toilette, if I'm not mistaken. But I was blown away by how much I like this. I had a chance to test both, and I would almost say this instantly shoots to the very close to the top of my favorite sort of aldehydic floral fragrances that I've smelled. It's a big aldehydic floral that has these powdery aspects to it. There's an Amazon lily note in here, which I can't say I know what Amazon lily smells like compared to regular lily, but there's neroli, there's carnation, tuberose, Turkish rose, jasmine, iris, narcissus, oak moss, patchouli, sandalwood, and amber. And I think it's the patchouli and amber and oak moss from the vintage bottles that really make this last and last and last. Carlos Benaim and Olivier Guillotine are the two perfumers. Carlos Benaim, one of the all-time greats. But I remember my mother had a bottle of this way back in the day, and that sparkly connotation kind of from the front on the front of the bottle, kind of diamonds glistening. It's a great representation of the fragrance. It really is. And I was shocked by how much I like this, to be honest with you. I was very, very impressed surprisingly impressed. Let's put it that way. Okay, now if you are making notes of the most powerful fragrances in the powerful fragrance video, I mentioned that Animale is just, or Animale from 1987 is so beautiful. But I mentioned Aromatics Elixir and I mentioned Poison. I'm going to mention another one right now. Well, actually, Estee Lauder in general is a house that has put out some extremely powerful fragrances over the years. And these next two could easily compete for the crown. So this is Youth Dew. And Youth Dew came out in 1953, if I'm not mistaken, sometime in the mid to early 50s. And Youth Dew, I would almost argue that there hasn't been another fragrance that has been so revolutionary as Youth Dew, because even though people overlook it, you have to remember this is what created, or this is what inspired YSL's Opium, which is definitely going to be on this list, right? And then, of course, Estee Lauder was pissed because she thought Yves Saint Laurent copied Youth Dew. So then she put out Cinnabar, which is like her take on like a modernized Youth Dew. And then you got to think about her husband, Joseph Henry Lauder, loving the creation so much that he created JHL. And then you think about all the things that kind of spun off of that, which we'll talk about here later on as the video goes on. But this was like I think one of the most influential fragrances for women. And they had it in everything. They had it in bath, sort of oils and stuff like that. But this is like one of the reference spicy oriental fragrances. And it is beautiful. Even for value for money, I think I paid like $10 for this, and it was like maybe half full when I bought it, and so the value for money is out of this world. I can't think of another $10 fragrance that gives you what this does. The cinnamon, the clove, the spices, the florals, the ambers, the resins, Peru balsam, Tolu balsam, vanillas, all this stuff. Resinous, oriental, spicy, beautiful. It's got some lavender in it. I think it's easy for a man to wear personally, but you can mark Youth Dew down. And then, when I think about powerful feminine fragrances, this is the fragrance that comes to mind. This one that I'm about to show. This is the one where I'm like, okay, if I had to pick one from this list to really represent what a powerful fragrance targeted towards women can do, this is the one. This is Estee Lauder's Azurée. And I really think that Bernard Shaw loved playing these games with feminine versus masculine. Like, for example, he did Aromatics Elixir in 71, and then he did Hermes 900, and they definitely share some similarities. He did Hermes in 1964, and then he did Azurée in 1969. Hermes was targeted towards men. Azurée was targeted for women. God bless the women of the 60s and 70s who wore this, because this is like one of the greatest leather chypres I've ever smelled in my life. Like, if you're a leather fan like I am, this is a must, an absolute must. And if you can find the vintage pure fragrance spray or just the bottle that looks like this, don't even worry about anything else. If you can find a bottle that looks like this, grab it. You will not be disappointed. And I hate to keep saying the same thing, but the texture of this fragrance, this shows what we've lost, honestly. Like, if you really want an example of what we've lost in perfumery, smell Vintage Azurée. Vintage Azurée will blow your mind. And anyways, there's more coming on Azurée later on. But yes, Azurée from 1969 is like my choice. If I was ranking this video, that would be top spot. Leather, chypre, galore, bomb. Okay, next on the list we have another Estee Lauder, and it is called Cinnabar. So I mentioned it earlier. This kind of spun off of Youth Dew, if you will, okay? And so this is a vintage. I've got a couple vintage minis thanks to Andrea, but she also sent me the modern, I believe. And this is still very good. I will tell you that. For what it is, this is still very, very good. It's much more floral somehow. It's nowhere near as strong. Okay, I'll tell you that right now. It's nowhere near as strong. They've toned it down substantially. So if you want the powerful one, you got to go for the vintage Cinnabar. But this kind of spicy oriental, with the peach and the orange, and you'll definitely get similarities to Youth. Absolutely, you will. There's no getting around it. But I love this DNA. This is a DNA that I could easily wear as a man, especially in winter. This is absolutely beautiful, stunning stuff. Lovely, lovely fragrance, Cinnabar. Okay, next on the list we have Estee Lauder's Knowing, and this is a Chypre fragrance created in 1988. The perfumer was Ellie Roger, and this is like a big floral Chypre with lots of plum and tuberose, and you can really see the impact that something like this Poison had on something like Knowing. Knowing seems to kind of take some of the elements of Poison, like the tuberose and plum combination, and play with some different things. You know, there's a pittosporum note in here, there's a mimosa note in here, and we talked about mimosa in one of my previous reviews that I just very recently did. Jasmine and orange blossom, patchouli, oak moss, vetiver, sandalwood, and amber. But these are, even though these are made for women, I have no problem wearing something like Knowing. It's such a beautiful floral Chypre. And the attention to detail, the way it evolves and transitions and transforms. I mean, this is what perfumery should be. And nowadays, so many modern fragrances don't give me the experience of many of these vintages. So again, I have no problem wearing these type of fragrances as a man. Okay, next on the list is another Estee Lauder. And this is almost like a reference green fragrance for me. And this is called Estee Lauder's Private Collection. Now, this is the pure fragrance spray, which is discontinued from my understanding. You can still buy Private Collection, but it's in a newer version. There's a whole thing. They like re-released it. Frederick Malle worked with Estee Lauder to re-release some of these classics. And I'll do a comparison video, vintage to the modern class legacy collection, they call it. But this is one of the best green fragrances I've ever smelled, ever. It's also one of the best honeysuckle fragrances I've ever smelled. Honeysuckle with sandalwood and patchouli, and it is just a reference green fragrance, if you will. That's the best way I can put it. And again, talk about last forever. There's a reason this is on the list and not Chanel number 19. So there's a lot of stuff that's not on this list that you would kind of maybe compare in a similar style to, but yes, Private Collection is one of the all-time greats. Okay, next on the list is a Fendi, and I'm going to spray this because it's been a while, but this is a spicy Chypre, and it's the original Fendi for women from 1987. Some people say 84, 85, some people say 86. I have no clue. It says 87 in Parfumo, so that's what I'm going with, but if anyone knows for sure, let me know. But I'm just going to go with Parfumo. Oh, wow. So beautiful. I get the spices right away. There's like this cooling touch of cardamom, which you don't expect to see that in feminine targeted Chypre, but you get it here. And you also get green cypress in this, which, so again, very easy for a man to wear. So Fendi from 1987. A green, spicy Chypre, just absolutely stunning stuff. Beautiful leather into the dry down as well. I love that stuff. Very underrated. I'll review that one of these days. Okay, next on the list we have a fragrance from the house of, well, this is a house no one talks about. It's called Folies Berger. Folies Berger. And again, this is thanks to the great Nuge. So for kind of shouting out some of these fragrances, but this is the Eau de Parfum version. There's a Pure Parfum. I think there's maybe a Eau de Toilette or something, but this is like apricot, fruity, floral, and it sits on a ambery, vetiver, musky, woody base, basically. I really enjoyed what I've smelled from it so far. And this is, again, one of these kind of underrated fragrances that no one talks about from the past, but I think a Nuge and Enchanté perfume still has some if you would like to grab some. Okay, next on the list we have a Givenchy, and this is called XIII. Now, if you're marking down the most powerful on the powerful list, mark this one down. XIII is a Dominique Ropion creation that just feels like you're at a banquet, a buffet of notes. My God, man. Aldehydes, orange blossom, the resinous galbanum in this hits you right away. There's actually a note of coconut in here, so it is fruity. The florals are out of this world. Florentine iris, ylang, jasmine, narcissus, tuberose, Egyptian rose, and they're all honeyed florals, how I prefer them done, 80s style. And it sits on civet, castoreum, bay rum, vetiver, vanilla. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, Satis by the House of Givenchy. Okay, next on the list, we have some Guerlains, just a couple that I grabbed. So the first one is going to be Mitsuko. And the Extrait, or the Pure Parfum if you can, or the Parfum de Toilette if you cannot find these versions. These older ones seem to be much heavier. I mean, this is one of the greatest chypres of all time. What can I say about Mitsuko that hasn't been said? But I did just want to show you guys the beauty of these older Guerlain packaging. Look at this. I mean, it is absolutely stunning, the packaging that they used to make. And this is called the Rosebud bottle because, surprise, surprise, it has like a rosebud on the cap. But there she is. And this stuff is to die for. Some of the deepest, richest, best perfumery, best example of fine French perfumery you can find, money can buy. This Parfum de Toilette is no different. I mean, the bottle itself with the heart on the front is so beautiful. I love Guerlain's packaging, but you know, that it's if you're not familiar with Mitsuko, make it a priority to smell it. It's a peach, it's a fruity floral chypre, and you know, it's almost like a reference chypre. It's got the oak moss, the ambergris, cinnamon, vetiver, ylang. It's got that lilac note, which really kind of separates Mitsuko from some of the others. But that peach, man, the peach with everything. I mean, I could wear Mitsuko any time of the year, 365 days a year. There is no bad time to wear Mitsuko. And the other one that really wears heavy on me, the other Guerlain that really wears heavy on me is Val de Nuit, the Extrait, not the Eau de Toilette. I have the Eau de Toilette. That wears much lighter though. The Extrait though, lasts forever. I think maybe my favorite galbanum fragrance, honestly. Maybe my favorite galbanum is the Extrait of Val de Nuit. And that's no shit. And I have number 19 in vintage form. I just talked about some of the amazing galbanum in something like Private Collection, but this is on another level for me. This is God mode galbanum. So yes, Val de Nuit, and you can see by just the amount I've used of this, I love this stuff. And sometimes I'll be sitting here like, what do I want to wear? And I'll just grab Val de Nuit. So it's good stuff. But you have to get the Extrait, and the vintage Extrait if you can find it. Okay. Next on the list is a often overlooked Hermes, and this is called Amazon. So Amazon came out in 1974. This is an older bottle. I don't know exactly how old. It is an older bottle, but let's see if I can get a little bit on this blotter. Amazon. Okay. So Amazon. Aha. Yeah, Amazon is, you know, Hermes doesn't make bad fragrances, but this is also a floral chypre, and it's got this note of cassia, which I believe has this cinnamon trunk-like bark smell, and it has that very narcotic hyacinth note that I was talking about. And I believe the Animale, which I'm still so impressed with. That Animale, my God. Maurice Morin made Amazon. Cedarwood, oak moss, vetiver, amber in the base. Really good stuff. Maybe one of the lighter ones from the list that I put together, but worth highlighting. Okay, next on the list is a vintage fragrance that reminded me a little bit of Diaghilev. Anytime Diaghilev gets brought up, you know it's a great fragrance. But this came out in 1988, and it's Jean-Charles de Castelbajac, and this is JCC number 2, it's called. Eau de Parfum, marketed towards women. I got a couple very precious drops thanks to, I believe it was Armando, very kindly sent me what was left of his bottle. And this stuff, really, it's this and just the way that the Chypre elements in the original Hermes that Bernard Shaw created from 1964, and then some of the animalic elements from something like Bandi come to mind in Diaghilev. But when I smelled this, I was like, wow, this, you know, there's something about the way I think the animalic notes in the base and the leathers and castoreum and everything come together. There's like a sweaty dirtiness to the leather here, but also like an aldehydic fruitiness in the top. That's why I say Aramis and stuff like that. But I have a full review of JCC #2 on the channel. If you want to check it out, be my guest. That's why I did them, so you could use it as a little bit of like an encyclopedia, but that is good stuff. Okay, next on the list, we have the Pure Parfum version of Bala Versailles. Speaking of full reviews, there's a full review of Bala Versailles on there, but this has this dirty, unwashed, skin-like smell. It lasts forever because it's a Pure Parfum. It's an Oriental. Again, there's a full review on the channel. Very resinous, dirty. I hear the cologne version is much cleaner and powdery and stuff like that. The Pure Parfum is much more animalic. There's more civet. There's more of that pissy, haven't taken a shower for a week, but maybe you've been with multiple partners feel. Go watch my review if you want to learn more about why I say that. But yes, Jean Desprez, Bala Versailles from 1962. And amazing. One of the all-time greats. Okay, next on the list, we have a fragrance from the house of Jean Patou, and this is called Lasso. Now, Andy, from the comments, you'll see Andy pop up from time to time. He's a big-time collector and hunter. He was like, man, it's about time I sent you something. I bought this, and they're going to send it to you. So I was like, cool. Lasso, my God, man, this is, speaking of just the way that the depth of the Pure Parfum of the original Animale has impressed me, I would say the same thing for this, maybe even more. I really like that Animale, but Lasso is a completely different animal. It came out in 1956. It was created by Guy Robert, again, one of the all-time greats, and it's a leather Chypre. It's basically what it is. You get the fruity elements, you get the dirty elements of the leather, but there's this, maybe because it's old, I don't know, but there's this like denseness of the notes. Like you just cannot, you know, like you're just punching a punching bag and you're trying to punch through it, and good luck to you. You know, it's just, it's fighting back. Lasso is very interesting. God, the quality of the ingredients, and maybe it's just because it's old and everything blends together because it's sat for a long time, but I don't know, man. There's something about these vintage fragrances that they just do it for me. Okay, speaking of vintage Jean Patous that don't get the love marketed towards women, this is one of my favorite Chypres that does not get talked about, Vintage Sublime. So Sublime is exactly what the name says. It is sublime in every way. Oh. It opens up with this almost like this hypnotic, but it's almost like a trickster play, because it opens up with fresh green notes, and you can smell the freshness of the bergamot even in this vintage bottle. But underneath you get powdery florals and animalic civet and vanillas and sandalwood. It's so smooth. I mean, the depth of the vintage is so much better than the modern stuff when designer parfums started to do it. Now they discontinued it altogether, but Jean Carleo, one of the greatest perfumers of all time, made Sublime. I would urge you to check it out. An amazing floral Chypre. Amazing. Okay, next on the list we've got some Krizias, and we're going to start with the first one, I believe, from the house, Quai de Krizia from 1980. This is the Eau de Parfum. I also have the Eau de Toilette. They're both amazing. You can't go wrong. Aldehydes, hyacinth, neroli, peach, lily of the valley, orange blossom, civet, rose, narcissus, iris, jasmine, tuberose, orchid. You get the idea. Oak moss. real ambergris. Look at the cap. You know, just everything feels top notch here. There's some styrax. It's a very spicy animalic chypre, basically. Maurice Roussel is the perfumer, and I think he used a lot of what he learned from the late 70s and early 80s into his later career. But K de Krizia is amazing stuff. And probably my favorite Krizia, and I've got multiple videos on the channel here, is Teatro alla Scala. I mean, what can I say about Teatro alla Scala? This is the fat lady singing. It's the fat lady singing. It is power, elegance. Oh my God, that honeyed floral animalic thing just hits you right in the beginning. It'll knock you on your ass. Teatro alla Scala will knock you on your ass. It's fruity, it's aldehydic, but it's got that dirty beeswax. I love Teatro alla Scala. One of my favorite. I feel like some superstar perfumer made this and is not allowed to say, like Dominique Ropion or something like that made this, because this just feels. Just go watch my videos on how much I love Teatro alla Scala. Okay, and then we've got one more. This is Crazy Krizia, which is kind of a take on Obsession. So if you kind of take Obsession and extrapolate it out, you get Crazy Krizia. And the reason I say feels like Dominique Ropion made Teatro alla Scala is he made this, and he admitted to it. So I would love to know who made Teatro alla Scala. I wouldn't be surprised if it was Ropion, but this is like taking that Obsession DNA and adding resinous green galbanum in the top, and making it a little bit more animalic in the base. Well, maybe not more animalic than vintage Obsession, but keeping that animalic and adding some more things to it, like the green galbanum, the green touches. It's like mixing Mousse Cartier from the early 80s with Obsession is a good way to put Crazy Krizia. Okay, next on the list we have from the house of Lanvin Arpège. I would say one of the greatest aldehydic florals ever created. Very floral, powdery. This vintage XIII version is out of this world. One of the best fragrances I've ever smelled in my life. My God, man. Again, one of the best honeysuckles, along with Private Collection, if you will. But yes, Arpège Lanvin is the fragrance that basically set Guy Robert on his path. He wanted to make something as amazing as Arpège. And I think he succeeded in some of what he did. Also, I have to give a shout out to My Sin by the same house. This gets almost no love, but it was originally Mon Pêche, My Sin. It's supposed to be an animalic, dirty version. Go look up My Sin and look up the advertisements that went with it. It was a lot of decadence, a lot of things that, let's say, you wouldn't want to do in public. You do that kind of stuff in private. But it's got resins, balsam, civet in the base. All of these are very dirty for the most part, but it's an animalic floral that deserves to be discussed. I'll review all of these. Unfortunately, my battery's probably going to die, so we got to hurry up. But next on the list from the house of Lagerfeld, and this is called KL. KL. And this took the original Lagerfeld DNA with that powdery orange kind of feel. And I think this is really what maybe set Obsession into its release, because the original Lagerfeld came out in 1978, let's say, and it was a powdery or masculine, creation with that orange running through it. This has the orange running through it. This has the powdery touches to it, the spices and all that stuff, and it preceded Obsession. So KL by Lagerfeld. And I don't think we have long on this battery, so I'm going to try to get these in really quick if we can. Next on the list, we've got from the house of Leonard. This is called Balahe. And speaking of preceding fragrances, this preceded Dior Poison by a couple years. And I actually prefer wearing this. Like, if you were going to make me wear one, I would wear Balahe, because it's got the plummy, dirty touches of Poison with the tuberose. But there's something about it that makes it a little bit easier to wear, and it doesn't get the credit that Poison, because Poison took off. This was relegated, I think, to the back burner, but it deserves some love, in my opinion. Okay, next on the list is Milachon Haute Cotier, released in 1990. And this is an amazing fragrance because it's leathery, civet-y, dirty into the dry down, but in the top there's notes like strawberries, peach, fruits. It's an amazing contrast, I think, and unfortunately discontinued. And shout out to my brother. Shout out to I can't remember who sent me this. I cannot remember who sent me that. Apologies, but whoever my perfume god person was who sent this along. Armando probably. Could have been Hari though, is why I'm hesitating, but I think it was Armando. Shout out to Armando for sending this over, because I really enjoyed getting to know this. This is, oh yeah, I mean, this is top-notch shit. I would wear the piss out of this. I'm gonna wear the piss out of this, actually. And the bottle is stunning. Look at that bottle. Yeah. I mean, you literally get strawberry. This may be the greatest strawberry opening I've smelled. Strawberry and peach with citruses, rosewood, and then it just evolves into this dirty, floral, musky, animalic. I really like Mila Schoen. Really like that. Okay, next on the list, and we're going to have to hurry up to finish this out before this dies. So we've got Habanita, which is another one that deserves much love and adoration. The original came out in the 20s, I think. This is the re-release Eau de Toilette from 1988. This is also discontinued. I haven't smelled the new stuff, but I hear it's still quite good. My God, man. This is supposed to be kind of a homage to women being able to smoke and stuff like that. So it's an oriental spicy fragrance. Beautiful rose centrifolia note in here. There's a note of mastic, which smells like it sounds. It's very, very spicy, very, very sticky smelling in the top. And so it's sticky mastic, very resinous galbanum, offset with some petit grain, and but that base of vanillas and spices and florals and the oriental notes like the amber. Habanita is absolutely stunning. I love how it slightly turns smoky as you wear it, and because of the shout out to the smoking culture. But yes. Okay, next on the list we've got a fragrance from the house of Paco Rabanne, and this is called La Nuit. And again, if you like Teatro alla Scala like I do, you have to try La Nuit as well. It's got tangerine, my God, Teatro alla Scala, cardamom, artemisia, so it's got a little more of that bitter, woody, sort of green touch. And I've talked a lot about artemisia in some of my recent reviews, with myrtle, rose, jasmine, peach, pepper, oak moss, civet, cedarwood, leather, and patchouli. In the Eau de Toilette or the Eau de Parfum, basically La Nuit means the night by Paco Rabanne. So the night is definitely worth a sniff, from 1985, a couple years before Teatro alla Scala, which is fucking phenomenal. Okay, as is the Animale. Okay, so next on the list we've got Pascal Moribito OR Noir, OR Noir, I believe is how you pronounce it. I've got a big bottle of this somewhere, but it was easier just to grab this little mini. OR Noir is aldehydes, bergamot, mandarin orange, gardenia, iris, jasmine, lily of the valley, rose, ylang, amber, patchouli, and moss. So Sebastian Martin is the perfumer. It's basically like a floral, spicy number. And it is kind of like a spicy floral chypre creation, if you will, which, as you'll notice, a lot of these are. And I get a lot of the spices. It's like an aldehydic spicy opening with bergamot and mandarin orange. It's beautiful. That's so good. So many of these old fragrances are just amazing. All right, we probably have like 1 minute left before my battery dies. Let's see if we can finish this out. Next on the list, Rochas Femme. If you're making a list of the big heavy hitters, like I was telling you to, this is one to mark down. Rochas Femme is basically a chypre mixed with an oriental. It's one of Edmund Runitska's greatest work. The plum, apricot, peach decadence that goes into here with the dirty cumin, an immortelle and clove, benzoin, civet, leather, patchouli, sandalwood, oak moss, vanilla, musk. go watch my review. I've got some reviews of Roche's Femme on the channel. It's an amazing creation. Speaking of amazing creation, this is Ted Lapidus's Creation from 1984, and this is a floral spicy chypre. This is a floral spicy chypre from 1984. I don't know who the creator of Creation is, but this has a very interesting note of passion fruit. If you can just imagine this big sort of fruity opening, very, very fruity, like mouth-watering, like mangoes and passion fruits and peach and blackcurrant, offset with the resinous galbanum and this huge feeling from Ted Lapidus does heavy fragrances. If you know Lapidus Pour Homme, you know. This is like a big floral spicy chypre with that very fruity opening. So Creation from 1984. And then we've got a fragrance I won't dare spray. This is Roomba. I hate this stuff. It is so, but it has to be on this video because it's huge. One of the biggest fragrances I've ever smelled. It's basically a big floral spicy chypre, oak moss, plum, basil, rose, jasmine, orange blossom, patchouli, amber, animalic notes, and sandalwood in the base. It was originally a Balenciaga fragrance, and then Ted Lapidus took it over. This is the 2009 version. I think the original came out in '89, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, next on the list is Van Cleef & Arpels Gem. Again, if you know Roche's Femme, if you know these type of fragrances, you'll be in the ballpark with Gem. Go watch my review. I've got a full review on the channel. You can check it out. It's got plum, peach, rose. It's a big oriental, basically like a spicy floral oriental. Lots of ambers and very, very rich though. Beautiful. I love wearing this stuff. Love wearing Gem. And lucky to have found this bottle. They're very hard to find now. Okay, 2 left. And if you're making notes, again, this has to be very close to the top of the list. This is Opium, one of the greatest fragrances of all time, in my opinion. A top 10 fragrance for me. Opium was a pure sensation. I mean, everything from the naming it after a drug, the marketing campaign, the bottle is absolutely stunning. These old Charles of the Ritz bottles are to die for. And I honestly think this is like, if I got a chance to wear Cinnabar versus Youth Dew versus, this is the one that I would pick. Opium is like mine. And I love the cinnamon and the warmth and everything that it gives, the clove, all of it. Okay, last one. This is like the green monster. So number 40 on the list is basically, I think, one of the fragrances that set off the green revolution. It's Y by the house of Yves Saint Laurent from 1964. It is Yves Saint Laurent's like entrance to the perfume world. It's a green floral chypre with plums, aldehydes, honeysuckle. Again, beautiful honeysuckle in both of these green fragrances. Ylang, hyacinth, tuberose, oak moss, amber, vetiver, styrax, benzoin, civet, and patchouli. Okay, so I'm going to sign off because my phone is literally going to die. I don't know why it's not charging. That's not a good sign. But I'm glad we got through the list and it didn't die on me. As always, it's a pleasure. Let me know what your favorites are. Love doing these list videos for you guys. Cheers, and I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.